You were born, you are nurtured up to whatever, you're 6, then you get sent in the kindergarten and school, and by the time you're 18, you come out and you go to college. By the time you get out of college, you get a job, and then you retire with whatever, 65 or so, and then you enjoy your retirement somewhere at a hot place, right? That's been the model of the past. That's not working. That is absolutely not working anymore, and in every respect.
Welcome to the In Our Humble Opinion podcast, the show where no topic is off limits. Sit back, relax, and enjoy a wide variety of interesting topics: sports, gaming, the paranormal, and everything in between. All opinions given are respectfully and humbly our own. Now here's your hosts, Jacob Cook and Brantley Weatherford.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to In Our Humble Opinion. My name is Jacob Cook, and I am very pleased, as always, to be joined by my best friend and co-host, Brantley Weatherford. Brantley, how are you?
I am Dipsy Doo and Jamma Maroon tonight, Jacob. I tell you what, I just had a fresh cup of hot tea, and I am ready to go down the street, turn on TV camera, crank back up again.
Well, I'm very pleased that you've enjoyed your tea tonight, and I'm very pleased to be joined by you as always. But I will like to kick off this episode very quickly by acknowledging our missed posting last Sunday. We apologize. I have recently taken a full-time position. Brantley obviously works full-time as an educator, and over the weekend, we sort of dropped the ball because we were watching too much football. It's a terrible excuse, but it's the truth. We're going to try our best to get some episodes recorded and stashed away so we can release them on time, every time, all the time.
On time, every time, all the time.
As Robert Tilton would say. So we do apologize for the missed episode, but we will try to make it up to you with a really good episode this week. We have a very interesting topic that Brantley and I have been looking forward to discussing on the show. And without any further ado, we're just going to kick right into the conversation today. We're not going to waste any time. We wanted to talk about the revolution that we've seen in the labor force, or perhaps it's not a revolution, perhaps it's just a trend. We're not quite sure yet. We have some statistics we're going to be presenting throughout the show, and Brantley has a few thoughts of his own. And Brantley, I thought I'd kick off the conversation by just posing you a question, as I like to do.
All righty.
Whenever we're talking about the labor force, what I'm talking about mainly is like how Gen Z and millennials, younger millennials, have, or at least their viewpoint on what it means to be a professional, what it means to be a working class citizen. And over the course of the past several years, especially since the pandemic hit, it seems like the landscape has changed quite a bit. And some are saying for the better, some are saying for the worse, some are indifferent. I personally have some thoughts on this, and we'll get more into it as we break it down. But as an educator yourself, even before Gen Z, I mean, you're dealing with, younger children that's part of a separate generation. I'm curious as to your experience with what they aspire to be and what their general work ethic is. And it's kind of hard to tell with that age group. I understand that. But you've had some interesting thoughts that you've shared with me over the past several months, and thought I'd give you the floor and let you kind of explain what you've heard from the youth of your classes.
Certainly, Jacob. Well, I would say around fifth grade, they're coming into the early preteen years, obviously. So early teens, preteens. And, Jacob, back when we were in fifth grade, we weren't really, we had thought about jobs, like, what do you want to be when you grow up, right?
Yeah.
And, as kids, I remember being as a kid, like, oh, I want to be, I'm going to be a lawyer, or I'm going to be a police officer, or I'm going to be a doctor. And then, of course, we had our crazy dreams, like, oh, it'd be cool to be a football star or a soccer star, baseball, musician, which are all achievable, understandably. But we also kept it into the realms of brain first, the entertainment second.
Mm-hmm.
But we also recognized that if we wanted to reach those heights in the entertainment, that we would actually have to strive to be, we would have to excel and put in the work every single day.
Right.
Fast forward to, let me think about this. 20 years, I'd say about 20 years since we were in fifth. Yeah, almost 20 years since we were in fifth grade. 18 years to be exact. It's totally different ballgame. Totally different ballgame. And I've seen this for 3 years now. I started back in 2020, or no, 2021, end of 2020. and been in school or been teaching for 2 full years, and then obviously this school year. And the drive for those things is not there. Now, there's still the goal of wanting to be, oh, I want to be entertainment in the entertainment business, music, or
Hmm.
I want to be a star athlete. The difference is there's not the drive there. I remember a few years ago I had a student who loved football, loved playing football. He says, one day I'm going to make it to the NFL. I said, that's what I want to hear. I want to see you make it. A few months later, or the next year actually, so last year, I went to him, I was like, hey man, how's football going? He's like, oh, I don't want to play anymore. It's just too much work. And I'm like, I thought you want to be in NFL. Oh, I might get there one day. And I'm like, what? So the work ethic is not there. Then the other jobs like lawyer, police officer, a fireman, doctor, sales consultant, stuff like that, it's not on the radar. Now, there are very few that have say, one day I want to be a doctor or I want to be a nurse. And to me, that's awesome. I love to hear it. And these students are the outliers, unfortunately, in this generation that say that they try hard because they want to be that stuff. They recognize they have to try hard. And I love seeing that. But the vast majority that I've seen, they're not caring as much. They don't care. Um, I've I've had students, and to put it bluntly, have been behavior problems.
Hmm.
And I say to them like, hey, if you keep acting up like this, you're not going to learn. And if you don't learn, you're not going to be able to one day get a well-paying job. And if you don't have a well-paying job, it's going to be hard for you to find food. That's just reality. I'm not trying to be mean or any of that. I'm just saying education is to help you build up your skill, your knowledge, so you can get out there and make something for yourself. Their response is, "Oh, I don't care." Some of them even say, "I'll work at McDonald's if I have to. That's fine. Then I'll have food to eat and I'll make money." And
Is
it's
it
frustrating.
is it fair to say, however, and I know we started this conversation with fourth and fifth graders, so it's probably not the best way to do so. But is it not fair to say that they're just children? They don't know what they're talking about. Eventually, whenever it gets closer to the time where they're making these decisions, they'll probably be a little bit more involved and a little bit more caring about the delicacies of trying to find a major if they go to college, or trying to find a trade school if they go that route, or just, I think it's fair to say that they have plenty of time to find that path. So I don't necessarily think it's not a bad thing. It's not detrimental to their career if they're not thinking about what they want to do whenever they're 20 and beyond, whenever they're 11 and 12 years old.
No, you're right, but I think it is fair to say that at a young age, if you don't have that want to do good attitude, like not behave good, obviously you
Hmm.
want to behave good, but to at least make good grades, there's no motivation for anything there. And if you don't have that, I think at a young age, it's really not going to develop into the later years. I mean, yeah, use me as an example. In fifth grade, I started struggling in school not because I'm dumb, but because I stopped caring as much. My focus wasn't on that. I want to do other stuff. I wanted just to have fun. And in my later years, I struggled with that until probably about college, and then I really kicked it in the gear and I got back on track. Thank God for that. Thank God I'm saved. But I got back on I got back on track, and fortunately, by the grace of God, I have made it. And at a young age, if you don't have any type of motivation for anything like that, I don't think it's going to develop in the later years. I mean, there's studies that show the mind forms the most at young age. It's molding, it's forming. You learn the most. That's why we teach kids language as early as 5 years old, because that's the time they absorb the most, right?
Sure.
So yeah, I would say it's fair to say that no, they shouldn't be focused per se on what they want to do when they grow up, but they don't have a drive to do good in the first place. Their drive is to make TikTok videos, become an influencer, YouTube star, or entertainment thing. But was what I was saying earlier. They don't have they have the want. They want it, but they don't want to work for it. Like they don't. They think it's just going to happen. I can't tell you how many times I've heard a student respond, oh, I'm going to make money off of TikTok and YouTube and all that. And they don't understand that you can't just sit down one day and say, all right, this is what I'm doing, and make it like that. It happens. Don't get me wrong. It happens. And for the ones that it does happen to, they're outliers. But for the most part, I mean, look at you and I, Jacob. We've been doing YouTube for what, a month now? And we're
Yeah.
putting in hard work. And this podcast, we're putting in hard work. Have we hit the big leagues? No.
No, I think that's fair. I mean, I think that's a fair perspective, but I'm curious, and I'm glad you brought this up. Whenever we talk about influencers and we talk about people who create content for a living who actually do very well for themselves, I'm sure they're influenced by Mr. Beast and PewDiePie and those who have made just an absorbent amount of wealth creating content.
Yeah.
So I think from a societal standpoint, it's incredibly difficult for any young person, I would think, and this doesn't even necessarily mean fifth graders, but even high schoolers and even into early collegiate years, it's really difficult to look around the landscape and see all of these different influencers like a Mr. Beast who have a net worth stretching close to $1 billion and not think to yourself, well, gosh, I want to do that. I mean, it's like most people, most individuals are faced with this challenge of work a 9 to 5 or try to find some way to make a living either by starting your own business, doing some kind of delivery service. You know, there's a lot of different avenues to creating monthly income these days. And I think whenever it comes to like, hey, do you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or something? Yeah, that's great. And you could pursue that if you have the talent and you have the intelligence to do so. But a lot of people don't. And so, like, the idea of pitching a 9 to 5 consultant job somewhere isn't appealing to people. Like, that's just not going to. And, you know, a lot of people who are older than us would say, like, well, that's just the way it is, you know, just tough. You're going to work a 9 to 5 for 40 plus years. You're going to, you know, invest in your 401k. And then whenever you're 65 years old, you're going to retire and then you can enjoy your lifetime. And a lot of people our age and younger have said, no, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to do it our way. I don't necessarily disagree with that approach. I just think that the way that they go about it isn't the most healthy, and it's not going to be successful. There are people who have made a successful march in that direction, and I applaud them for it, because I don't think that the structure of labor in the United States is a very healthy one. And I think that it could be improved upon. And a lot of employers are seeing it now, because you hear all the time that people can't find people, or, you know, you let me rephrase that. People can't find people to do the job. They can't find employees. And there's a reason for that, I think. And it's just because the model, in my opinion, is outdated and needs to be looked at again.
I don't necessarily disagree on that, but before I touch on employers and other models, I think we need to remember that as humans, after, and I'm going to hit on religious aspects here, we're meant to work. Like, we have to work to survive. And I believe we've been
Sure.
conditioned so much in America to having a good time all the time. And then people feeling sorry for, I have to work 9 to 5 and I don't get to have a good time all the time. Well, the fact of the matter is, you actually have probably a 10 times better life than people in poor countries, because
Sure.
they're working just to survive, not just to see. When people say I live from paycheck to paycheck, they're living paycheck to paycheck with all the stuff they want, right?
That's very true in a lot of cases. That's
They
very
got
true.
internet, they got a car, they got a home, they got heat, they got, all this stuff. If they didn't have all that stuff, they wouldn't be living paycheck to paycheck. And I understand, well, that stuff brings me joy. I get it. I understand. I enjoy all those things just as much as you. But I think we've become a society that is so lazy and self centered on, oh, I got to have this, 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 this. If you're a Christian out there or a Jewish person out there, and I'm mainly focusing on the Christians here because the Jewish community seems to have it together. But if you're a Christian person out there, you know that your life's not supposed to be perfect. That's just reality. So if you're out there, oh, I want all this, da, da, da. If you're living just to be part of this world and to have fun all the time, I'm not going to say you're not Christian, but check yourself on that. And I think, Jacob, as a nation, we're just so we're entitled. We think we should have everything given to us and that everything should be about us. And I think that's the problem with this generation. And not just this generation, I would say our generation has some of that. The
Hmm.
upcoming one would have some of that. And I think, yeah, 9 to 5 sucks.
Well,
I,
let me ask you this, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I do have a question about the point you just made.
yeah.
Is it unfair for a Gen Z individual to say, "I want to work, but I want to enjoy what I do"?
No, that's fair. That is okay. That is completely fair. Now,
Is
if
it
you
is
can
it
find you a
real
job that
quick? I got
go
one more
go ahead.
question. Got one more question for you. So if that's true, if that's not unreasonable, it might be unrealistic, but it's not unreasonable.
No.
Is it not true that our society as a whole wouldn't prosper from people who are passionate to get to work every day?
Are you saying it would prosper if they were passionate to get to work every
Yeah,
day?
like, is it not true that they would be like we would be more prosperous if everybody woke up? And I understand this is a very utopian, this is a very unrealistic point I'm trying to make, but just I'm trying to illustrate like a broad point here. Is it not unrealistic to assume that if people woke up every day and were extremely excited about going to work, that our nation as a whole wouldn't benefit from that?
Yes, it would. However, there's also jobs out there that are necessary that not everybody likes.
That's
And
very true.
the problem with, oh, I want to do something that I enjoy. Well, you have to work for that. The problem I see with Gen Z is if they don't enjoy it, they quit and say, well, I'm not getting what I want. Like you actually have
Yeah.
to, if you want that, look at the entrepreneurs. Look how much work they've done. Mr. Beast is an excellent example. He didn't start off making millions. There was one time, Jacob, he made a video about Moist Critical and saying, man, I hope one day I'll be able to, give out gifts to charity and whatnot. And now fast forward 10 years later and he's the biggest YouTuber in the world. He put in work. He strove for that. I'm sure he worked some jobs at the time he didn't enjoy. And I think that's one thing we're missing in the newer generation is there's going to be tough times. I understand. I worked at a news station for 2 years. I did not enjoy it. But did I just quit and say, oh, I'm just going to quit because I'm not enjoying it and get what I want? No, I found another avenue. I found something that I could be passionate about and help people. That's my passion. There's other passions out there than just what makes you, what's fun all the time. I will admit, teaching is not always fun, but the passion is to help children learn and to help them be successful. So I chase that.
Yeah, I think my point though is that, and I get that. I'm not trying to in the labor equation that I have in my mind does not exclude hard work. That is the primary component to a successful career. Where
Yeah.
I have a hang up though with the way the system is structured at the moment is that there are a lot of very talented people who have a tremendous amount of passion for something that they cannot get paid to do because there are limitations in place, such as educational barriers. And sometimes it's just knowing the right person to get you into that specific role. But the problem is they're forced to work another job that detracts them from the opportunity cost, being their time of doing something that they would rather do because they have to make ends meet in some way. And I feel like that, I don't know exactly what the solution to that would be, but because they're being so much of their time in a career that they don't care for, they can't pursue the career that they really want because maybe they discovered their passion too late, or maybe there were financial barriers and they couldn't get the education they needed to get to those roles. There are certain people, I'm not saying it's the majority of them, but there is a good number of people who are ineffectively, they're, I'm using air quotes here, trapped to an existence that doesn't make them happy because they can't get into the role that they really want to get into. And I sympathize with those people because they do work really hard. And it can be a very depressing thing to look around an office and think, I'm going to be here for 40 years and there's not much I can do about it.
That is fair. I mean, I think the barrier system of having a certain degree or having certain experience, a certain amount of experience is a bunch of baloney. And I think that companies and jobs need to stop looking at what degree you have and see if you can actually do the job. And I'll put it like this: as a reporter, I didn't learn to be a news reporter at school. I went for written journalism, so I know how to do a story, right? Like I know how to write a written story, but it's different for TV. I didn't know how to operate the camera and all that stuff. Um, I didn't learn by going to school how to do that. I learned from actual experience from my internship. I got to experience. I learned how to do it there. And I
Yeah.
think that's what we need more of in the workforce. We need more, okay, you have some knowledge, at least have a little bit of knowledge of what you're getting into. Now, if you're just random, oh, I want to work here, and you have no knowledge about it, at that point, I say, no, go back out, get some more knowledge, and then come back. But if
Yeah.
you have a little knowledge, a little interest, a little passion about this, I think companies, and they're not going to do this because it's going to cost them money. And that's one problem we have in the world in general. Agreed. But I think companies should start taking in people, showing them the ropes, giving them training, giving them like military, right? Giving them training for a few months, see if they can do what they are passionate about. If they're really passionate about it, I guarantee you they're going to strive their best to get to where they're going. Now, there's some jobs out there I do think like aerospace or missile creation. You need people that know for sure how to do those mathematics equations.
Yeah,
I
of course.
don't think we need somebody that says, "Oh, I'm passionate about missiles, so I want to go make them." Well, if
No,
you can't do
no.
the math,
Well,
I
that's
don't
not
know.
that's not what I'm saying either, though, because I understand that there are barriers to entry that have to be there. Like, for example, in the
Yeah,
medical field, you have to go through medical school if you want to be a doctor. You have to go through law school if you want to be a
I
lawyer. I'm
I
not
don't
I'm not saying
necessarily
that.
agree with the whole you have to go through medical school to be a doctor. The best experience is field experience, in my opinion. In that regard, I think there's very certain positions out there that yes, you need a lot of knowledge, a lot of education, and then experience on top of that. But I think if you want to be at least a nurse, and this is no knock to everybody that went to nursing school and doctors. I'm not saying anybody can get up and do what you're doing. I'm not saying that at all. But I think if you're training someone to do it, because that's what they did back in the day. A long time ago, they used to just train them, show them this is how you do it. I learned how to do TV reporting through observation, through experience. I didn't learn it through sitting in a classroom and watching videos. Oh, this is what you do. That's
Yeah,
boring.
yeah,
So I get that aspect, but I also think that we're a society that's getting lazier and lazier. And if we don't get what we want right away, then oh well, I'm going to quit. I'm going to silent quit at work because I didn't get what I wanted. That's
yeah.
garbage.
No, no, no.
That's a you problem.
And I agree with that. I mean, I agree with that. I'm not advocating for people to work less. Well, actually, I take that back. I wouldn't necessarily say that. There are some labor unions, I think, in the north part of the country right now in the automobile industry. I don't have the story in front of me. I heard this on the radio, so I don't know how true it is. I haven't validated it. But they're advocating for the 32-hour work week. I don't think that's a bad idea. Like, I really don't. Like, I understand that people who hear this and hear my opinion on this are probably going to, it's easy to say that people who have this opinion are lazy. And I understand that. I understand that that's where people are going to go with this. But that's not the case. It's just that I think Generation Z and others, and I'm mainly talking about corporate America, I'm mainly focusing on office jobs and things like that are largely redundant and aren't exactly important, but are necessary in some respects.
Hmm.
And union jobs, labor workers, people who work in manufacturing. Like it may not, I don't think those people are looking for a good time all the time. I think they're just looking for a job that they enjoy going to every morning, that they don't wake up like imagine whenever you were working for Pinch a Penny,
Hmm.
like how whenever that shift was coming up, like
Yeah.
how did that feel? Was it like, oh man, I'm here, I go off to Pinch a Penny? No,
Well,
it was
I'll
it
say
was more
this.
like, God bless it, I got to go back to that godforsaken store for 8 hours.
It was better though than the news for me, but I see what you're saying there.
Sure, but
But
like imagine
yeah,
if that was the 40-year career that's in front of you.
yeah. But the thing is, I found a path out. Like I
Well, sure.
realized I didn't want to do that, and I think that's what a lot of people, the younger generation, don't want to do now.
Well,
So they
sure.
just stop. They're like, well,
But
I'm not
imagine you
getting
were
nowhere.
educated for that, though. Imagine you spent 60 grand on a degree to do that thing, and maybe it's a little bit more prestigious than just working in retail. But my point is simply that there are some people who get to the end of the road of their education and find out very, reality gives them a good hard slap across the face, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, I don't want to do this."
Well, then make a
Th-
career change.
Then
And
what
I
do you
know
do?
that's what I did. I know it's not easy, but if you're really hating what you're in, you you have to work. You can't just expect stuff to be given to you.
No, I agree with you. We don't disagree on that. But I guess, and this kind of plays right into one of the statistics that I'd like to read. This is according to a statistical poll. They don't name the poll, so you can take it for what you will. But it was in this article that I found on ApolloTechnical.com, and they said that, and this is actually published in August of 2023, 70% of working age people in the United States are actively looking to change their job.
Well, that's fine.
70%, that's over 2/3 of the population in the United States, are looking to change their career.
Well, here's the thing though. If these 70% do finally change their job and then they're looking to change jobs again and then change jobs again, I don't necessarily think it's the job. I think it's you at that point. That not all jobs are going to be sunshine and butterflies every single day.
Sure.
We have to realize that. I mean, even the NFL, now they have a big cushion. They got millions of dollars. I get that. But not every job is going to be perfect every day. And I think that's one thing newer generations are expecting. Oh, it's got to be perfect every day. I got to have fun every day. I got to get what I want every day. I need to wake up every day wanting to go. That's not that's not reality. It's just not reality. And I'm
Sure.
not saying that you should hate your job and still go. That's not what I'm saying. But we have to recognize that not everything is going to be perfect all the time.
I don't think that's the expectation, though, from people who I've heard talk about the changing of the labor force. I don't think that's what they're advocating for in the slightest. I think that there was a video, actually, this is kind of going to illustrate the point. There was a video that went around recently on YouTube, and I saw this on a video or on a show that kind of talks about topics like this. And they were highlighting a retirement community. It was some sort of senior center, and there was a bunch of the citizens who lived there. Older people who are retired, who were, you know, uh, on the back nine, shall we say, of their life, and they were playing all these different games and stuff that seemed kind of trivial, but it was like bingo and stuff like that. Very stereotypical, but the point was made, and people were commenting on this. They're like this the pitch that that our society is selling to us young people, and a lot of Gen Z people were commenting on this, is that we're going to work into our 60s. We're going to work these jobs that we don't care for at all, and then this is the reward at the end of that road: playing pat a cake with your neighbor at a retirement home. And we don't want to do that. And I don't disagree with them. I just don't. I totally agree with this idea that if you're not happy with what you're doing, as you said, find a way to get to where you want to go. And that's going to require a lot of hard work. I don't think we're saying different things, but the 40-hour work week, in my opinion, in a lot of cases, not for every industry, not for every job, not for every individual. I just think going into an office specifically, like where you're required to go into your office for 40 hours per week, or and even more, like 60 and 70 for lawyers and other professions, I just feel like is an outdated model. And the pandemic showed us that. The pandemic was very eye-opening from a labor force perspective, where almost everybody worked remotely. And we saw an increase in productivity in a lot of different industries, and specifically IT, because people didn't have to deal with the petty nonsense of going to different meetings and interacting with coworkers and stuff like that. It's not for everybody, because some people don't work well in an unstructured environment like that, but there are a lot of people who do. I've even heard of software engineers. I was watching a video on this recently, that are working two salaried paying positions because they can do both at the same time. They can work for two different companies, writing code and things like that at the exact same time, working from home. And that's an increase in productivity if I've ever heard of one. Now, again, that's a very isolated incident. I'm not talking about all industries, again, as I keep repeating myself. But I think going to a hybrid remote model is the way that the labor force needs to change. Companies need to realize that people don't want to have to be required to come into a physical location 40 hours a week plus. It's just not realistic. I think a lot of the jobs that we do in society can be done from home. Not every job, obviously, but a good portion of them can. And a lot of people would prefer it that way. And if your employees are happy, they're going to be more productive. If your employees are more productive, as a company, you're going to be more productive. It just makes sense in my mind. Now, again, I'm oversimplifying things. I realize that. I understand there's legislation in place that we would have to, as a society, look at and see what changes need to be made. But I feel like, we cared so much about people's mental health for like a year, and then we just completely forgot about it.
Yeah, but also the economy during COVID was crap. So all this increased productivity, and we had a crappier economy.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was still a new thing, though. We're 2+ years beyond that, though, and we're seeing that. And I actually have some statistics here. About 13% of Americans currently work a completely fully remote position, and about 30% work a hybrid model. I think the hybrid model is great. You come into the office 3 days a week, you're home 2 days a week. If you're on salary, if you can get the work done, it doesn't really matter when you do it or where you do it, as long as it gets done, right? At least that's my opinion.
Well, your brother works from home, does he not?
He does.
And he hates it, does he not?
Well, yeah, but I mean,
He don't have to go in.
that's an outlier though, because my brother, he just doesn't like the industry that he's in.
Okay, well, he can change it and get another remote spot.
Yeah, he could. He's staying with that position though for personal reasons.
I like the hybrid idea. I don't mind that. But I'd rather our system that we have now than what they have in Japan. They go for 7 days a week, nonstop work.
Oh yeah, yeah,
12.
yeah. No, I'm not comparing ourselves to any other country. I understand. I watched a whole video on Asian labor force and things like that. I'm not comparing ourselves to anybody else because I understand it could be worse. I really do. And I'm not saying that the 40-hour work week is some torturous model that's horrible. Because I mean, I enjoy my job and I work a 9 to 5, and I enjoy
Well,
the people I work with immensely. But I just think like, I think what really bugs me about this though is like the employer has a lot of influence over the employee, obviously. And one thing that annoys me about working for corporate America is that they can tell you you have to pull overtime. They can tell you you can't take a vacation this week. They can tell you all these different things. But by the same token, if you need a half a day to do something, it's like you get reprimanded on the spot for taking that half day. Or if you don't have PTO, you're not getting it. Or, like they don't, it's a one-way street. It feels like oftentimes people are exploited time and time again, and anytime they want away from the office, because in some cases, people who work 2 jobs in particular, they see their coworkers more than their own families. And to me, that's just madness. That's just complete and utter madness.
yeah, I mean, I agree there. Before I move on to the corporate, because I got a lot to say about that, I would say if we did want to go to a 32-hour week, what's the difference? You get one extra day, and then people start complaining about that. Oh, 32 hours is too much.
Well,
And
maybe
then
they
what? We
do,
go
but
to
a
we go to
4-day work week is way better than a 5-day work week. Everybody
well,
would take an extra day. I guarantee it. If you gave
well,
people an extra day
eventually,
off during the week, everybody would sign up for that. I guarantee it.
I think people will be like, oh, well, this is not enough. We need another day. We should only have to work one day. Then what? What's the stopping point?
What, the slippery slope argument?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You
And
just
we've
don't do
seen the
it.
slippery slope. Okay, well, no one's doing it, then our economy is going to crash and burn. Then more people are
No, no. I
suffering.
mean, like you just don't give in to the labor unions and things like that on shrinking the work week even more. I'm not even sure shrinking the work week to a 4-day work week is a good idea for most industries. But I'm
At the
just
end of
saying,
the,
like, have the flexibility to give your employees some extra time off now and again. Like,
well,
don't give your like there are some companies that I've heard of, and that I've heard people who have worked there talk about, have like you have to work there for like 10+ years to get any sort of like reputable vacation time. That's just
that's
crazy.
garbage. But I'll get to that in a second, Jacob. I'll get to that in a second. Um. Okay. Well, now you work 32 hours a week. Now you're working 9 to 4 every week. for 40 years, and then at the end of the road, you're still doing that retirement home thing. Is that any better? Does that one extra day make a total difference?
I mean, I think to a lot of people it would, to be honest with you.
But at the end of the road, they're still in the retirement home. Like, this is your reward for working 32-hour weeks. That's still a long
yeah,
time.
I mean, sure. I mean, for some people, that will be what they end up where they end up. You're not gonna remove that, but I'm just saying, like, this idea that I think the message from people watching that video was, again, like I talked about earlier in the episode, go back to, or rather, find what you truly love to do and try to monetize it to the best of your ability.
Yeah, but yeah, I agree, but I don't know. I digress from that.
The thing is, and I don't mean to harp on this, the thing is, people are constantly told by people from an older generations particularly that they are supposed to just suck it up. Yeah, it sucks, but it's the way it is. Don't worry about it. Work your tail off. You might get promoted, which a lot of people aren't even accepting promotions now anyway. And yeah, you're going to retire. And then you're gonna be able to enjoy your life. And a lot of people are saying, no, I'm gonna find what I want to do. I'm gonna pursue that to the best of my ability. I'm gonna work my absolute butt off, and I'm gonna try to achieve that. And that's frowned upon by a lot of people. They're like, no, you're bucking the system. That's not how it's supposed to work. And I agree with the people who are trying to find what they're passionate about. I really do.
I agree with that too.
Life is just too short to waste away in a 9-to-5 job that you absolutely hate. It doesn't benefit you. It doesn't benefit the company because you're probably not doing a very good job anyway. It's not a good system.
I agree, but at that point, you have to find a new job yourself instead of blaming everybody else. Look, corporate sucks. I hate corporate. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like a lot of the argument from Gen Z is, oh well, the way things work is not fun. I want to be able to do whatever I want, whenever I want, and still make money. That's not reality.
No, I don't agree with that.
Well, that's what I see in school.
Yeah, I know.
If I can't be a YouTube star, then I'll just live off of,
if I'm not going to be president, then I'm not going to do anything.
Yes. I get the whole argument. 9 to 5 does suck. Don't get me wrong. I'm not advocating, oh, we should stay 9 to 5. But the problem is a lot of people who complain about a lot of times about working 9 to 5 in a job they hate. Well, what are you going to do about it? Your mind is the mountain before you, August Runs Red. Your mind is the mountain before you. You have to do it yourself. And you can't say, well, I can't because this, and this. Okay, well, maybe you should start giving up that weekend party, instead of going weekend parties and wasting money that you got from a job you don't like. Use those weekends to prepare for another job, save that money. That way you can make it till you get to that other job. We got to start making compromises in some places, because if you want to get to some places, you got to make sacrifices. That's just reality. You can't have everything and then get everything. You can't have your cake and eat it too unless you put in the work. And if you're not willing to make the change and make some sacrifices to get to where you want to be, then I don't want to hear complaints. Oh, well, I don't love this, so the system needs to change to make me happy. No, you need to change yourself. Find that thing you're passionate about, and if you make it, great. And unfortunately, here's another sad reality: not everything works. It's just the truth. How many businesses open and then close in a few months? Sometimes it doesn't work. But at that point, you can't just give up. You have to keep moving. And people don't like that, to hear that. They don't want to hear, oh, well, I need to have a very laissez-faire life. That's not reality. It's unfortunate. I'm sorry. But as humans, if we want to survive, I'm not talking about watching TV every night, playing video games, going partying all the time. If you want to survive, you have to put in the work. We were made to survive. We have luxuries now, and I feel we've gotten too accustomed to these luxuries, so we complain, well, I can enjoy this, and this YouTuber is making billions of dollars. Mr. Beast, PewDiePie, Moist Critical, who else out there? A lot of these YouTubers, they have put in their work. It didn't just happen.
Well, I mean, I would push back a little bit. Yeah, they worked their tail off. But even, like Charlie would say, there is a huge component of luck to that led to their discovery.
Well, sometimes that happens.
Well,
There's
I
a
know,
huge
but I'm
component of
just
luck
saying,
when it
like,
comes to being athletically gifted. If you're
well,
born with it,
that's
you're
true.
born with it. I
That's
mean, is
very
that
true.
fair? No, life's not fair.
I'm not trying to paint that picture though. What I'm simply saying though, as far as like the system needs to change, I don't know what it would look like if it did change. What I'm My point of view on this is like the companies that employ,
They need to change, and
yeah,
I'm
exactly.
about to destroy them.
So like they need to be more receptive to a hybrid model. They need to be more receptive to a remote model. They need to try to incorporate and change to accommodate their employees that make the executives and the stockholders so much money.
I
And
agree.
like it's ridiculous to think that whenever, like, I went back to that half a day example, I've seen a lot of my coworkers in the past positions that I've worked for and the companies that I've worked for get completely reprimanded for like asking off for like a half day, like it's ridiculous to think that like people can't do their day-to-day chores and run errands and things like that because they're giving so much time to this company that's underpaying them in the first place and doesn't appreciate the work that they do when they do come into work and work their tail off. It's just completely ridiculous.
I agree in that regard. I 100% agree with that, and I want to hit on that. When I worked at the news, I was making 23,500 a year. Add in taxes, it was down to 17,000. That's crap. All right, to live a living salary, an actual living salary, not a luxury living salary. Uh, I believe in Alabama, it's about 29 to 30,000. So I wasn't even making a livable salary. Fortunately, I was still at home with my parents. So until I was able to build up some money, find a new job, and get out, I was fine.
Yeah.
That being said, I was required so much junk. Being there, I could go out and get a news story, get it, record it, uh, edit it within like an hour, and I did that. After that, I was required to stay at the station until it was time for the news, and then once the second news show ended. And what did I do most of the time? I sat there and waited. I was done with everything. I was sat there and waited, and it was complete garbage, and I hated it. I hated it with a passion because I was like, well, now what do I do? And I'll even put this out there. I would go get my story. I'd be done by like 11 o'clock, right? Instead of going back to the station and say, oh, I'm gonna get started on it, because I knew I didn't need 7 hours or however long till 5 o'clock to edit it. I knew that. Instead, I would just go eat. I listen to music in my car, and then I get back to the station by 2 for our afternoon meeting. Am I wrong for that?
No,
I
no,
don't
no.
think so. I don't think so because I don't want to sit at the station all day, like you're saying. I agree with that 100%. And I think that was a garbage decision by corporate. And it is corporate. Let me get to corporate. Vacation comes around. At the news station, we have 2 total weeks of vacation we can take. 2 total weeks. That's poop. Um, if you wanted 3 total weeks, you had to work there for at least 10 years. 10 years.
Yeah, for
That is
5 days
poop.
a year.
5 days a year. And then if you got called on the weekends, here's advice to people out there, and news people may hate me for this, but if you're off on the weekends and they try to call you to go get a story, don't answer. I didn't. Do I regret it? No, not at all. Because this is my time off. These are my weekends. I need this to recuperate. I don't want to go home after Friday and then go Saturday to get more news. I want to have some time off. We need rest. Right? To the Christian people out there, we need a day of rest. That's just how it is. So we had 2 weeks. Well, Christmas comes around the second year. My first year, I had to go in on Christmas because there was a helicopter crash. It sucked. I hated it. Second year, the start of January, the start of the year, I put in for Christmas off, and I put in for I think one summer or 1 week in the summer. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Christmas is coming around. Some people had to be there on Christmas Day to work. On Thanksgiving Day, to work. On Thanksgiving Day to work. There was no break. And you know what corporate said? They told our GM, the news doesn't stop just because it's Christmas.
So what, did
I
they
know.
call you in on your vacation time?
No, I was still off. I had mine cemented already at that point.
I
But
got
other people, they were expecting at least a few days off for Christmas because it's Christmas, you know? The news, that line, even though I was off, I was pissed. I was super pissed. I was like, are you kidding me? I said some choice words about corporate. The news doesn't stop. But keep in mind, they're off. Corporate is off for Christmas.
Yeah, yeah. See,
Corporate
that's
is
what
off
kills me.
for
All the
Thanksgiving.
executives.
Corporate is off for the time they want to take that day off. But the people who are actually making the money for the company, the ones that are doing the job, that gets the views, that gets the revenue, they're not off. They don't get time off. That's not.
Yeah.
Oh, and also they're getting paid probably 100 times less than what corporate is. And
Yeah, and I guess
it
their
really,
argument is like they work their way up, they pay their dues. So,
not everybody does that.
oh well, that's
Not
what I'm
everybody
saying.
works their way up.
Not everybody does.
I mean, there's some people in the news that have been in there for 30 years and they're still making. In fact, I work with one. He wouldn't say the news is living the dream now after 30 years. I get that. I understand that argument there. And I think corporate needs to be held accountable for it. Telling your news people, oh, the news doesn't stop just because it's Christmas. Yeah, we get that. We understand that. But you also got to realize we're people. We're not slaves. We're not bots that just want to work. Oh, you got to make that money. Take that paycheck and
Stick it somewhere.
forgive me for this. This is our first time on air and shove it up your ass, all up in your ass. We don't want to work those stupid hours just so you can take your 2-month vacation in your gold penthouse. All right, start paying us better and giving us better vacation, and you won't see the workforce, as you're saying, Jacob, start complaining and having strikes and whatnot. I understand all that completely. I do.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing it all the time. We saw pilots striking recently. We've seen the writers strike, obviously.
It's garbage. Yeah.
People are tired of being taken advantage of for meager pay.
Meager, and I loved seeing the signs saying, can't find any work, people are too lazy. But then you look at the salary they give, and it's like $8 an hour. Of course, they don't want to work for you. You want me to go work in a warehouse stacking boxes, and it's hot or it's cold. If it's cold outside the warehouse, it's freezing. If it's hot outside the warehouse, it's blazing. There's no in between.
Yeah,
And
just a real
you want
quick.
to give crap pay and blame us?
Another point that somebody made about corporate America in general is like a lot of companies that have seen a lot of success, like growth year after year of high percentages, they don't return that back to their employees. Their employees, like base wages, still stay the exact same.
Which is stupid.
Yeah, and they're like, so all of that extra, and I understand, like as a company grows, they have higher expenses. I get all that. But still,
Yeah.
if you have a high net margin of profit and you're seeing year on year growth, you need to take care of the people that take care of your business. You
Yeah,
should be
and
you should be
I
pouring
agree
that
with that.
into them first and foremost and
I,
thanking them for all their hard work. Not some pizza party on Friday afternoon, not some nonsensical employee appreciation week where you give them lunch boxes and maybe a mug that says their name on it. Like actual proper incentives that include increased rate, raises and things like that. It's just nonsense.
100% agree in that regard. I 100% agree. Corporate is crap. I can't stand them. But I think these strikes are helping. I still stick to the idea that you shouldn't just be handed something because you don't like it. Find something else. If you don't like, I didn't like corporate. What did I do, Jacob? I changed my job. I
Yeah,
did.
for sure.
I changed my
Get out
job.
of there.
And to say, oh, well, I need to be able to do this and all that because, well, I'm a human. I have feelings. Da, 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 da. Okay. Well, join the 7 billion other humans in the world. Not everything's
Yeah.
perfect, but I do
You
think
shouldn't
corporate's
receive a
crap.
paycheck every month for doing absolutely nothing. You have to
Exactly.
work for what you want, and I'm totally fine with that. I mean, I have heard from a lot of entrepreneurs who would say the same thing. It's just they're entrepreneurs now. They used to work in corporate America, but they, like you said, they saw all the mistreatment, they saw all the nonsense. And
Yeah,
mistreatment is probably a bit of a strong term,
I
but
don't disagree. I think it's the right term.
it's just I think a lot of people have seen the model that's before them, and then they don't want anything to do with it anymore. In fact, my older brother, and I'm very proud of him for doing this. I'm very excited for the opportunity he's created himself. He used to work in insurance. He told me that he is no longer going to do so. He's going to start his own business, and he's actually been working on that because he said, and I quote, "I'm tired of making other people rich." And I totally agree with that sentiment because
Yeah.
it's just completely skewed in the way that our society has structured the labor force. And a lot of people who are younger, who are coming up underneath, are saying, we're not doing that. We're going to change it for the better, and everybody's going to prosper from it if we can get it right. And I think hopefully we can. I don't
Well,
know. I don't know what
I
it's going to
will.
look like, but hopefully we can.
I will say this: as Jesus said, there will always be poor people. It's not going to be perfect,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
but but yeah, from a corporate perspective, I think it's garbage. I do, Jacob. I agree there, and I agree with your brother's sentiment. I'm tired of making other people rich. I was tired of working at news. Why? Uh, Bunyan Butt Bill over there sitting in his office doing nothing is making millions and then telling me, oh, news doesn't stop because you're on Christmas. Well, why don't you shove that?
And then
Because
he's like, "Oh, and here at the Christmas party, Brent, I got you a slice of that pepperoni pizza you like so much."
why don't you take that? I'm not going to say it again, but
Thanks for all you do for us, champ. And then like pats you on the back. Way to go.
golly, man, I cannot stand corporate.
Way to go, everybody. We made an 8% increase this year. Way to go. Here is a $15 Visa incentive card.
you
Thank-
know,
Thanks.
Toby's a part of corporate, and he's not really a part of our family. So I understand Michael's corporate hatred. I do.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy. Real quick, going back to that hybrid slash remote model, a lot of people are adverse to this idea, but I think it for a lot of industries like IT, it makes sense. For
The IT, yeah.
for 2023, like I said, 13% are fully remote. According to Forbes, they estimate by all basic measures and metrics that around 30% of the workforce will be fully remote by 2025. That's 32.6 Americans, roughly. And I think, and according to them, that trend is going to continue for the next decade. I don't know exactly what percent will be remote by 2030, but if 32.6 are remote by 2025, I think it's safe to estimate that number will double within the next 5 years. So we're probably looking at close to 100 million people by like 2032, 33, somewhere in there. So it's going to be interesting to see. Not every industry obviously can go to that model,
Yeah.
but I don't think that's a bad thing. I really don't. I think people who work from home or who work a hybrid model, a lot of people would sign up for that flexibility. If you're on salary and you can do the job in less time than somebody who works 40 hours a week, but you're still getting the work done, then that's fine. Why is there a problem with that?
It's a procrastinator's dream.
Well, sure. In some cases it is, but some cases you actually need all the time you can to get the job done. But in other cases,
Yeah.
if you're skilled or intelligent or efficient enough, you don't need the 40 hours to do it. Like, honestly, what I do on a week to week basis at my financial firm, I do not need 40 hours a week to do that. I could do what they require me to do on a week by week basis in probably a little over half the time. But I'm required
Yeah.
still, like you said, to sit around and try to find ways to be productive because I have to work that 40-hour work week. But
And if you're not, you're lazy.
yeah, exactly. As soon as you say something about it, that's the immediate label people hear. Like, you're just a millennial. You don't want to work. You don't want to, I just don't want to have my time wasted.
You're not doing enough. I just went out and got a story and two side stories. I've put it all together. Now I have nothing to do. We'll go get more.
Yeah.
No, you're not paying me to go get more. That's another thing I want to say. I'm paid to do. If your job description tells me to do this, and a lot of people want to say, "Oh, you're just lazy. You're never going to overachieve because you don't do more." If I'm paid to do this, this, and this, I might do some more here and there, but I'm not wasting another 8 hours to go out. I'm just using the news for this. Another 8 hours to go out and cover this crime story because I'm the only one at the station at the time. You're not paying me extra to do that. There needs to be incentive. Oh, it's just part of your job, you know. If you want to move up, you need to do that. I know. No. If I'm good at what I do, I'm going to move up regardless. I don't need to do all this extra crap, as I would call it, just to appease you, you know.
No, I agree with you, man. I agree with you. I feel like I ranted quite a bit, but it's just
I
something
love
that
it.
I've felt strongly about. And if you're out there listening to us and you disagree with us wholeheartedly, let us know. Send us that email, write us that comment. We'd love to. I'm open to have my mind changed. If the 40-hour model is the perfect model and everybody should be exactly where they need to be on 5 days a week, let me know.
We can blame Ford for that. What was
Wow,
his
that's
name?
Henry Ford.
Yeah, he's the one that came up with the model.
I mean, I'm not necessarily sure that it needs to be changed. I just think for some industries and for some people, it makes sense to cut hours a little bit and to give people more time with their families. I don't think that's a bad thing. Call me crazy.
You know, in school, we teachers actually have parents' kids more throughout the year than they do.
I
Isn't that
know.
crazy?
I mean, but again, I feel like that's a little bit different though, because that's education. But at the same time, though,
Yeah,
like I don't know, maybe that our education system needs to be remade from the ground up anyway. but
no comment.
anyway,
I'm not gonna
we
comment
might
on
we
that.
might revisit that episode. We did one before in that season 1, but we might
We need to
revisit
get
that.
my assistant principal on there about it.
Yeah. That's actually a great idea, Brent.
Yeah,
But again,
he listens.
but as it pertains to this topic, if we miss something or you have a passionate take, let us know. Like I said, leave us that comment, send us that email. We'd be more than happy to look into your opinion and see if it persuades us to change our own. Um, we don't hold back on the show. We give our opinions. And they may not be the most
Hold back.
popular, but
You gotta let go, man.
but yeah. But
Yeah, I
Brent, do you have
agree.
anything else you want to add real quick before we sign off here?
Nah, no. I mean, hearing me, I sound like bipolar on that issue. But I think I can't stand corporate. I'll put that out there, and I agree with a lot of you know bad pay, and you want me to do all this junk for bad pay and say, oh, it's hard work. It'll eventually pay off.
Yeah.
I'm just
And
gonna
it's
go.
it's part of why Oliver Anthony blew up the way he did, because of that song where he talked about. I mean, his
Yeah,
song had like a political aspect to it as well, but like there was a lot of it about just the labor force and making meager pay for overtime hours and all this other stuff, and it resonated with so many people because it's true. A lot of people feel
yeah,
extorted.
yeah. I agree with that idea, and I don't think you should be paying people crap and then saying or being offended that they're leaving because you're not paying them. Oh, why are you leaving? Because you're not paying them. They wanted better stuff, and I think that's held over people's head. They're made to feel guilty about it. You
Yeah,
shouldn't feel
yeah,
guilty. But I also think that our younger generation is lazier in regards because they want stuff handed to them. They're entitled, and they think that if they don't have their phone, their car, their internet, and all that, then it's society's fault. I don't agree with that idea. I think you have to
yeah.
go out there and make that your reality instead of blaming others and say, well, it needs to change. Well, if it changes and you're still in that predicament, is it society's fault or is it yours?
No, I agree with that. I think there's a fair bit of individuals that would fall into that category, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I don't know where we go from the workforce here. I don't know what we do.
Yeah, we'll see how it changes. It's been changing. It's changing currently. I don't know what it'll be in 5 years or 3 years or 2 years, but hopefully we'll find out in time. And I hope real change does happen, and
What
it benefits both the employees and the companies we work for.
I agreed. Jacob, in 5 years now, you're not going to be back on here with Joe Rogan and entrepreneurs of yesteryear and this year's, and we're going to be opening up packs and doing Nuzlocks and just living the LIVIN, baby. Just living the
I
dream.
hope so. It'd be nice. But thank you all so much for listening. We do apologize once again for missing our upload last week, but we shouldn't be missing any more for the foreseeable future. If we do have something come up in our personal life, we usually try to let people know via our social media channels, which you can find in the description of each video. So follow us on there for those updates. If you have any topic suggestions or anything like that, always you can send them in to us either by a comment or our email is also in the description. You can send them in there. And we just want to say thank you for listening. We've been doing this podcast now for almost a year, and we've greatly enjoyed it. We've got a lot of great episodes. We've got more coming, some more sports-related stuff. We've had a wild year in college football, which we haven't even really talked about much since our opening episode a few weeks back. So a lot of great things planned, a lot of great things coming. So stay tuned for that. Thank you again for listening, Brant. I'll give you the final word here.
Well, as Jacob said, thank you for listening. Go check out our other YouTube channels, which will also be in the description. And again, guys, we appreciate all the support we receive. Apologize for that language today, but it really grinded my gears, as they say. And yeah, guys, until next time, we'll see you later. Deuce.
Thanks for listening to the In Our Humble Opinion podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. If you have any comments on today's episode, or if you'd like to suggest topics for future episodes, connect with your hosts at humilitypodcast@gmail.com. We'll see you next time.